Good afternoon, folks. How are we doing? I hope we're well. Sort of back to normal this week. So last week we did two with games streams just because schedules have been going a bit bananas of late, so I just had to mix it up a bit. Today we're doing the usual geeky lunch chat. No games today. Um, then Wednesday's one will probably be on Thursday. I need to be in the office on Wednesday, so obviously I can't stream. But I have no reason to think, touch wood, that I can't do a with game stream on Thursday, where we'll maybe be playing Settlers of Catan again, or something else. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. I'm not too fast, but no, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. It's becoming increasingly festive, I think. That wasn't a intentional cough or anything like that. No, it's yeah, I think we're nearing the holidays. From my perspective, I have a couple of days left of my day job before taking some annual leave over the Christmas period. So I finish on Friday, and then I'm back on the sixth of January. So that'll be a nice break. See family, do stuff. Not have to do any spreadsheets. That'll be nice. That'll be nice. But I hope you're doing well. We watched. Well, I was gonna say we watched our first Christmas film over the weekend. No, that's still technically true. We started to watch Home Alone when we were putting the tree up, right at the start of December. But and our plan was it was going to be we were going to watch it, and our little one was going to watch as well. She didn't really have any interest at all. So by the time the tree was up, we weren't really watching it that much. So we didn't end up watching much of Home Alone. And my glass is really wonky. Let me fix this. 1 second. We didn't end up watching much of Home Alone. I think we will probably watch it in its entirety, or jump to Home Alone 2 at some point during the festive season. My glasses still look really wonky. Maybe it's the angle. I don't know. Yeah, they do. They do, don't they? What's going on here? Who knows? Who knows? We'll sort this out. Look straight at the camera. Nah, no, maybe it's my head is wonky. Maybe it's that. But what we did end up watching over the weekend, we ended up watching The Santa Claus, which I have not seen since maybe since it came out, which is kind of ridiculous. But no, I really enjoyed that. We did have a moment of because our little one was in the room. We had to do some quick sanity checking of what do they say and what do they not say. How much they keep the mystery of Christmas as part of this, and I think it's fine. And it was fine. She didn't pay that much attention to it. Our little one, new stuff she has an issue with. Not in a quite the degree of like a kind of autistic level, but I think just in a sort of standard sort of 5-year-old level, to be honest, that she will stuff that she knows she likes, she wants to do and enjoy. Stuff she doesn't know she likes, she will reject it immediately and will have to be lured into it. It's the same with food. Food that she thinks she likes, she'll eat without hesitation. Any food that she doesn't think she likes or doesn't know, even if she has and has just forgotten it, she will push back hard against that one. So she didn't really watch the Santa Claus or watch bits of it, but we enjoyed it. It was good. Again, I've not seen it for so long, but definitely worth a rewatch. I understand the sequels though, the quality decreases quite rapidly, but there we go. What else related to Christmas? Streaming in general will probably, I think I'll probably officially announce that there will be no lunch chats during those 2 weeks. Just because I do lunch chats during my lunch break from my day job. Obviously, I'm not doing my day job. Wife's home for the holidays because her job finishes during that time. Little one, school is shut, so rather than me running upstairs and doing a stream in the middle of the day, which is not terribly social, and also is liable to be interrupted by a small person, there won't be any lunch chats during those 2 weeks. But I'll try and do some gaming streams in the evenings. We'll see how we get on that one. It depends, in general, on what's going on with people coming around with family and stuff like that. Are the last bit of news on this one? Short thoughts. Short thoughts. We have a new episode of Short Thoughts this Friday. Links going in the chat there. That's on Twitch. If you're on YouTube watching this, then please just where Short Thoughts is. But announce the guest. Reaction's been great so far. So if you've not caught this already, my guest this Friday for Short Thoughts is Devora Wilde, aka the voice of Lae'zel of Creshkalir in Baldur's Gate 3. I've been hopeful for this for so long. I then had a chance to speak to Devora at MCM London. She was absolutely down for doing this. The recording got delayed once. We ended up recording it. Editing it was a nightmare just because there was so much gold in there. And I didn't want to cut anything. But Dev's an absolute delight. The episode, I think, is very, very funny. And also poignant in some places, as the best episodes are, I think. But yeah, I've been wanting to tell people about this one for a while. But I wanted to tell people before it had even recorded, which I thought was a gamble. And then once it was recorded, it was like, I want to tell people about this. But I think it's a really good episode. So please tune in for that. Share it. Hype is good. We actually managed to get up to 150 subscribers on YouTube. Thanks to the announcement of this, we jumped from like 147 up to like 153 in a day, because we got a bit of hype. And thanks to various people of the internet for helping share that one. Particular shout outs, a lot of people from the kind of Gaycorn community. So I'm thinking Kelly, I'm thinking Dev's GIF. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. We're on a roll, which is great. But please, tune in for Short Thoughts on Friday, 1 p.m. GMT is when it's going out live, but it's pre-recorded. It'll be available afterwards. Please watch, please share, and a little short I posted up on socials today, just to kind of tease that further. But it's a good one. And I really hope you enjoy it. Right, so let's talk a little bit about a topic we have addressed before. I didn't know what I was gonna talk about today. Well, I didn't know when I went to bed last night. I thought, well, we're doing with a lunch chat without games. What do we want to talk about beyond general kind of updates, this, that, and the other? And I considered talking about Gladiator and other sequels, because I did last week see Gladiator 2, which I probably will talk about on another stream. I have mixed feelings on it, essentially, is my short answer to that one. I enjoyed it, but it has some big old flaws, I think. So we'll probably come back to that on another stream. But so I was considering talking about that, and then I had a very odd dream last night. Very, very strange. So I thought, let's return to the topic of dreams, which I had a look, because I knew we talked about this before. Actually, back in January of this year, we did a stream where we talked a bit about dreaming and the oddities of dreaming. So I'll kind of recap what we talked about then very briefly, and then talk about the bits I was intending to talk about on that first stream, and then we ran out of time. So I generally am quite a lucid dreamer. I generally have quite a lot of control over what happens in my dreams. Very rarely do I get the full-on lucid dream, but generally I'm at least relatively active in my dreams rather than it just happening to me. There is still that element which I call the fuzzy logic filter. So your brain kind of compartmentalizes what you do and don't know. So you could have absolute access to certain bits of your memories, and absolutely no access to other bits of your memories, which is very, very odd. And then the logic filter is kind of this willingness to accept oddities or not. I think a truly lucid dream that you have basically no barriers, no compartmentalization of your actual memories, and that fuzzy logic filter is basically off. So the second something odd happens, you go, hang on, this isn't real, this is a dream, and therefore I can do anything. That's a truly lucid dream. Which does happen now and again, but I generally have quite a bit of control of my dreams, and I generally remember them quite a lot. It's rare that I don't at least have some memory of my dreams when I wake up. And then this is the odd one. This is the odd one I talked about last time. Is I think, unlike most people, most of my dreams are set in the same locations, which is very strange. So broadly speaking, I would say like 80% of my dreams are set in the same set of fairly generic locations, which are a train station or on a train, a school, hotel / university halls, at least that sort of corridor and rooms kind of vibe, a theme park, a shopping centre, or a swimming pool. And as I talked about last time, the particular oddities of those locations is that they are an amalgamation of, generally speaking, real places I have been, kind of matched together, but are generally relatively consistent. So, for example, let's take the shopping centre. The shopping centre, if I dream I'm in a shopping centre, it tends to be the same shopping centre each time, or at least it is familiar enough that that whole fuzzy logic filter kicks in that I'm pretty convinced it's the same place every time. And it's amalgamation, I think, of various shopping centres or places like that I've been, I think largely influenced by the Harlequin Centre in Watford, which I spent a lot of time in growing up, but combined with some other places. So it seems very, very familiar to me. I do have some dreams that take place in absolutely random places, absolutely. Whether they are completely original places or something from some sort of media. I mean, I think if I've been watching a film late or watching a TV show late or reading a book late, that will definitely influence what happens in my dreams. But generally, it's one of these kind of generic places, which is, I mean, it's strange. It is definitely unusual. And I talked about last time, it's one of those that if someone told me that I was astrally projecting to these places and they actually existed in real life and I was actually there when I was asleep in my normal life, that would make some sort of sense. I'm not saying that that's actually happening, but it's just strange that a lot of my dreams take place in these very generic places. So, that's what we talked about last time. What I also wanted to talk about last time was some very specific dreams, because sometimes when I have a very detailed dream, I will try and write stuff down on my phone or my notes app. Either because I thought it was particularly interesting and it's worth jotting it down, or there might well be some sort of thing I can mine or some sort of creative work. You know, for example, I had a D&D campaign. The first D&D campaign I ever ran, there were some lore elements from that taken from a very specific dream I had that I thought was quite interesting, and it allowed me to populate bits of that world with things from that dream. So last night's dream was weird, and I was very, very deeply asleep to the degree I slept through my first alarm. So it was creepy. It really was very bizarre. So in the dream, we were moving house. Now, we're not actively moving house right now. In fact, we only moved here about 18 months ago. But clearly, there's something in my mind that's about viewing houses and stuff like that. And oddly, I think we had moved out of our current house, but hadn't found where we were going to be living yet. We were still looking, which was strange and kind of links to something that actually happened in reality. We ended up moving out of our old house before we had completed the sale on the new house. So there's truthful elements there. But we were looking at some houses, and there was one we'd been to that was quite small, and there was other. We went to one that was quite big. And I remember in the dream my wife saying that, oh yeah, it's within our price range, more or less. Hey, Cray Crack, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you are well. We are talking about the oddities of dreams today. Specifically, right now I'm talking about a dream I had last night, which was very strange. I was dreaming about moving house, And this house, the more I wanted it, the bigger and bigger it seemed. And later on in the dream, my wife ended up telling me that, oh yeah, no, actually we can't afford this, but we wanted to have a little look around. But it started off as a house that seemed really cool, and they'd left a lot of furniture there. The previous owners weren't there for some reason, and I think in the logic of the dream they had moved out already. So any furniture that was left there was ours to keep, which was strange. And it seemed kind of cool to begin with. It's like, oh yeah, they've left a piano. That's great. I've always wanted a piano. We never had space for it. And yeah, great. Yeah. And there were some strangenesses that I think we thought that maybe our bedroom would be downstairs, my daughter's would be upstairs, which may be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's okay. And then the more we went into the house, the creepier it seemed. Like there were 2 bedrooms that looked sort of like children's bedrooms, but they were very, very thin to get through. Like imagine like an ordinary doorway that had a pillar in the middle that split the room in half. So you had to squeeze through this crack to get in it. And when you got into the room, or what you could see of the room, it looked almost like a kind of prison cell, like a really kind of nasty looking bunk bed, and not a lot in it. And I thought, oh yeah, this seems a bit strange. And then there was another room which seemed to be loads of bunk beds. Almost like what you would kind of see in like a barracks or something like that, and that was strange. And then there was a mezzanine level that led down into almost like a imagine like a sunken floor in a room, but then with a spiral staircase that worked your way down into this kind of pit. I didn't do a thumbs up, Apple. What the heck are you doing on this one? Very, very sensitive on this apparently, and that was just filled with creepy stuff. Like there was some old porcelain dolls with blacked out eyes, and there was something on the TV talking about like how the house had been abandoned in strange circumstances, and everything we started to see from then on was weirder and weirder, and almost like a cult mentality or something like that. I think there was something really weird. Actually, this happened before with the notion of the cult thing. I didn't take notes on this one. I thought, the fact I've remembered this dream, I don't need to take notes on it. And then one of the first things we saw in this house, after seeing that there was like a piano and stuff like that, there was a room with a switch in the middle of the room, and you hit the switch, and something lowered from the ceiling, or no, something floated up from the floor. There was almost like a zeppelin, and for some reason, in kind of perched atop that zeppelin structure that filled the entire of this bedroom or something, was Nick Offerman. The actor Nick Offerman, better known as Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec, who kind of leapt down and started talking about, I think, Ron Swanson-y type things, like kind of libertarianism or something like that. And that was strange. And like every time you pushed the button, Nick Offerman appeared, which was odd. And he says, it was odd. It was incredibly strange. It was just utterly bizarre. And then it just got creepier. It's like, this place, there was clearly some sort of cult thing going on here. Like, it was maybe started off a little bit Fight Clubby with, there's going to be like groups of people in barracks and bunks and stuff like that. And they've got this kind of fixed mindset. And then it definitely got creepy. Like, someone had maybe been killed there. And then you started to look at the walls and they were kind of rotten and stuff like that. And it was like, okay, I need to get out, I need to get out, I need to get out. And then, fortunately, my second alarm went off and I was awake. But I must have gone so quickly out of a really deep dream state into wide awake that my brain was still whirring. When I woke up, it was very, very strange, very unnerving, and I don't know where that dream would have gone, because it was that the second I realised something was odd, I started seeing more and more oddities, and it just became more and more uncomfortable. So I'm very glad I woke up. So, on the back of that, that's what made me decide, let's talk about dreams. The 2 of the dreams that I have had previously and then written stuff down have actually been of a very sci-fi sort of nature. And I've tweeted back when I was on Twitter. Sorry, I'm sniffing, I've got a bit of a cold here. And I've talked about these a little bit before. But they're both very odd sci-fi kind of dreams, and both of a there's kind of an Inception quality to it, or a Blade Runner, or a Cyberpunk 2077 quality to them. The first one was a very lucid and expansive dream that I had about hacking biology. It was, I can't quite remember the setup of it. It was, I don't know if I was in it or I was writing it or was watching it. I don't know. The start is unclear to me. But the point was there was an invention that maybe I'd come up with, or I was working with someone, where essentially you could hack your biology in sort of two ways. There was a device, like a chip, on the back of your neck that did two things. It had two directions of communication. One was to input signals into your brain, so you could put information of any kind into your brain, and the other one was hacking your body so that you could have artificial signals sent to the rest of your body to make it do stuff. And in the course of this dream, there was kind of an evolution happening, of starting from basics, then becoming more and more the consequences of this. And I would love to write this book at some point. I think there's some potential. I mean, this sort of notion has been touched on by lots of sci-fi authors before, but it came sort of so fully formed that I think I would like to explore it at some point. I mean, some of the things I remember and I wrote down at the time, and actually for the purposes of this, I dug up some notes I made. In this case, this is a note that I put on my phone on the 8th of September 2019. The notes I've got here say Project Ramsey, which I think was a note that I maybe put down afterwards when I was compiling the thoughts on this one, which was you could use this notion to override the flavor of food, because obviously we taste stuff and our brain then interprets whether we like it or not, and what our response is to that. So the second we start being able to override that, and you just tell your brain what you want the thing you're about to eat to taste like, the food industry changes completely. You know, it doesn't matter how delicious something tastes. It becomes it being visually appealing, and about texture. Maybe, and even less so about texture, because texture is just a sensation as well. It just becomes about it being visually appealing. You know, you want something that looks great, but it almost doesn't matter what it tastes like, because all of that is going to be overridden anyway, and you just need to make sure you've got the right kind of nutrients and stuff in there. But everything changes with that. You know, the notion of dessert is basically eradicated or completely changed, because the fact is, you know, if you're having a dessert nowadays, you're having something that is undoubtedly very bad for you for the most part. It's probably got chocolate in it or something like that makes it sweet and it makes it enjoyable, and triggers all those kind of serotonin type things in your brain. But that's unnecessary. If you can override the flavor of it, it just needs to look good, and then probably got some nutrients in it, because it can taste like, it can be any kind of sensation you like when you eat it. So that's a game changer. Dreams, I've got a note here, Project Sandman. Override the dreaming parts of your brain. First they tried to program the dream itself, but then they found a way to trigger lucid dreaming. So that means you could have, and this is explored in Cyberpunk 2077, you could record dreams and then choose what dream you're going to have from a kind of pre-programmed menu, or like you would read a book. You say, I would like to experience that. And then you could trigger lucid dreaming. So then rather than just being I'm going to do this, you know, here's a dream about being a superhero, great, I'm going to have that dream tonight. It would be a case of, well, actually, I'm going to set it in a setting, and then I'm going to do whatever the hell I like. And that's when you end up with that thing like Inception, where people would just stay asleep the whole time, because if you can literally do anything in your dream, what's the point of being awake? I know here, Project Cupid, the sex industry changes immediately. The fact that, you know, again, if sensation can be overridden and artificially done, you know, then all of that thing about the kind of sex industry changes immediately. You know, you can change the way your eyes are behaving, you know, so you can see So from your point of view, you're seeing, not necessarily seeing what you're actually seeing with your eyes. What you physically feel would be different. Everything there completely changes. Memories, you could remove bad memories or artificially insert good memories, or lessons like you get in the Matrix. You could learn how to do a skill by just implanting those signals into your brain and getting it to kind of form those neural connections that all saves in your brain, and artificially change your body as well. I don't know the logic of this one, but if you could artificially send, this is going to the kind of outwards bit, if you could put in the signals to tell your body to, increase a muscle, say, stimulate that muscle, whatever it might be, then, things like exercise kind of starts to go out the window. You just need to give your body the correct amount of nutrients to do it, and then the artificial signals that would then, reinforce and work that muscle until it, changes. Hormones and stuff like that, it changes as well. And you could do an awful lot of body augmentation just with the correct signals and the like. Clearly not everything, but that was interesting. But maybe, the fact is we grow, and at the time that we grow until we stop growing, your body is producing certain cells. If you could override that, then maybe you could change stuff. Simple degree, if you could tell your body to artificially change, what's going to be in a cell when it replicates in, say, your hair, you could have a different hair color, or you could get hair back. He says there's a follicle disinclined man. So that was an interesting dream I had one time, and I remember waking up from that and scribbling stuff down furiously, because I think you then go down an interesting rabbit hole of, if you're saving what's coming out of people's brains, if you are recording it, if you're playing it back, if you're artificially inserting stuff, then the body becomes less important. You could take the brain out and have it run connected to a system. You could save the outputs of someone's brain and replay it into a new brain and see if they replicate everything that they did before. I mean, there's so many weird and wonderful and horrible possibilities from this that immediately became an idea for a book. Which I will have to write at some point. I think that could be interesting. The other one was on a similar sort of note, and I wrote quite an extensive note after this one, which I'm tempted to just read the whole thing out, to be honest, because this is everything I wrote down when I had this dream. This is 3rd of January 2021. Specifically, it said at 7:10 in the morning. So I clearly woke up and just typed on my phone as fast as I could while it was still there. So I think I'll read it. I'll maybe pause in some places along the way to try and give some context to it if it requires it. But there's some weird stuff in here, but it's interesting. So the note is called Operation Sleepwalker. Clearly, I like giving stuff, whimsical names in a sense. So it says, I was part of a team designed for researching something, brackets, Cyberpunk, Matrix, Ready Player One meets Inception with some Avatar thrown in. 5 people kept asleep using really painful injections. There was a rotor on the wall of who stays awake at any one time. Also wake up for certain times or occasions, like my birthday. Back from the holidays, so I was back from the holidays, I really recently started, maybe I'd done one test of this before the summer as a trial, but it was my first time properly, and it hadn't hurt that much during the trial. And then there's a note at the end here that says, Sean Bean was there, ? Not a freaking clue. Clearly, a Sean Bean-esque character was involved in this. I have no further notes about what was going on here, but there we go. Hey Mash, how you doing? Don't we all love Sean Bean? Well, I think the characters he portrays, I'm not sure if he's that wholesome as a person in real life, but no, I love Sean Bean and stuff. He's excellent. So, my notes then say, in the system, there were lots of worlds or scenarios. I was playing a game like Cyberpunk, Mass Effect, Deus Ex. I'd racked up a bill quickly on DLC, giving me access to upgrades and worlds. Why? Upgrades and words. Why would words or character emotions require paid upgrades? Well, why wouldn't they? It's all money and profit. Was that cost real in the real world? Was my job to infiltrate another company's game and see what it was like? I definitely worked for a research team. So, yeah, the idea of paid things to upgrade your dream sensation, all of this was odd. And I was part of a research team that were clearly doing some sort of operation. In the loading lobby between the injections and the game, or was it just character generation for the game, I could customize my avatar setting, including skins and biology. Starts as a perfect scan of you, and then there was a government NPC who was providing required changes for the job. You felt the body changes and almost believed they'd affect the real world. Did they? Probably not. Could they? Maybe. So there was some sort of limbo, and that's a very Matrixy thing between going to sleep and the dream starting, where you could kind of change stuff. Lots of characters in the game, some real and some not. How do you know? Was Carmen a real person? She acted as if she'd been in the game for a long time, but she wasn't real, as she didn't exist in the real world when we were getting the injections, but she acted like she was, including preparing to leave the game and return to the real world. Fucks with your head if an NPC makes you think that they're real. What if she was another organization? Or does the dream emulator just provide the standard compartmentalization to prevent you from realizing that something doesn't make sense, providing false real world info, e.g. she's on the team, but blocking your real world info while you're in, you realizing that she's not on the team? That block prevents the need to pass the Turing test. Just provide a logic block on the human and they don't realize the AI is an AI. Why would this job or government program do that? Are they hoping you'll share real world info with the character? Do other employees go into the same system or game? Or are they studying you? So that was a huge thing in this. I remember, and sometimes you have dreams where you think you've woken up and you think you're awake, but actually it's still in the dream. And it was kind of like this, and that Inception degree of going through different levels. And I distinctly remember talking to this Carmen character. And I'd completely forgotten the name of this person until I read this note that I wrote, 3 years ago. And she was acting like she was on the team, and, we were just chatting. And then it's like, right, we need to, wake up now for whatever event it was, Christmas or something like that. And then I remember waking up still in the dream. And, we all came out of our sleep pods, like Alien style or Red Dwarf style or whatever. And we go, where's Carmen? Like, who's Carmen? And then someone goes, you met Carmen then. And the notion from the narrative that you could create someone in the game with that fuzzy logic filter that prevents you from quite figuring out that they're not real, and then talk to them, that's kind of cool. But also the fact that my brain was doing this, and the science and psychology of dreams I find so fascinating. Thank you for the follow, Jaffo101. I hope you're enjoying this, bizarre insight into my brain and what's going on with some of the dreams I've had. I hope it's entertaining. There was a Netflix cartoon that did something similar. I will have to check that out. Thank you. But yeah, the fact that your brain can do that, I find to be very, very interesting. It's all well and good to say it from a sort of sci-fi perspective. But the fact that our brains actually do this, so the fact that my brain that day was able to have layers of understanding, so that in one scenario I realized I completely bought into a fantasy. My brain then took me to another aspect of that dream where I had more information, and I realized that part of that was false, but clearly not enough to realize that I was in reality sleeping. The fact my brain was able to do that convincingly enough that I kept going with it is bizarre. It's that whole compartmentalization thing. Which aspects of your life do you remember and which bits are completely false in a dream? It's fascinating. It really is. The last notes I've got on this, because I just realized I didn't read the entire of this phone note to you. Last bit said, I think I'd unlocked DLC from another game in the one I was playing, such as the arm blade from Deus Ex that my character shouldn't have had. I've also got a note at the end. If the interface connected and took control of your brain's dream creation system, that would allow this. Hence the dream emulator. Huge amounts of data sent. Too much for your brain to generate all this on its own. Also, this way controls the feedback sent back to your body. So again, I think it links to that first dream idea as well. And there's a very matrixy idea of kind of plugging in your brain. That actually information could be passed in, information could be taken out. And I think there's so many creative ideas I've wanted to explore before about the notion of dreaming and the possibilities for it, because we strive so often to have this technology in the real world to create fantasy. We write books so that someone will read it and they will picture stuff and they'll go on that journey with us. We create video games, increasingly open world video games, where you can create a character, you can explore a world, maybe you can customize that world yourself. In Skyrim, you can build a house. In even from the earliest kind of chat stuff, like kind of Colony City and stuff like that, you could build your own rooms, build your own city. You've got Minecraft and all this kind of stuff, where we are creating increasingly clever technology to create fantasy. And take Star Trek, you've got the holodeck and stuff like that, where you are, that's kind of like a goal, that people could work towards. You could create something, you could wander around it. But the fact is, our heads do this on its own. All this technology, all this investment, all these leaps and bounds of, we can just create the next thing that allows us to do that. We can create goggles that let us, see augmented reality or virtual reality. We're now getting treadmills you can stand on while you're doing your VR stuff, so that actually it feels like you're walking to places. But our heads do this already. That seems the more obvious leap, and it's a dangerous leap. It is an incredibly dangerous leap. The fact that actually, if you could somehow attach the narrative, you could drive the narrative and you record what comes out, and you could control that flow of information, that actually you could force your brain to have a particular dream, then all of that becomes a moot point. It doesn't matter that you don't have, I don't have the graphics card to play this game, and we'll do all these narratives and stuff like that. Your brain does it, for most part. I can see but actually say, mine doesn't. I have black brain vision. Interesting. But in theory, the capability is there within people's brains to do that. That actually you could, right, I want to play The Witcher, something like that. Well, actually, I could plug myself in. I could then have the Witcher dream, and I could believe wholeheartedly that I'm Geralt of Rivia, going through the world, doing whatever it is I'm doing, and I could control that in the manner that I would want to, playing a game, and anything that doesn't seem correct. The fact is, you play a game and there's a bit that's a bit janky. You play a Bethesda game and you clip through something there, or you get to the edge of the map and this subquest doesn't go as far as you would like, or they never wrote a romance for that character, or whatever it is. Your brain fixes it. Your brain generates stuff based on those ideas. You read a book before you go to bed and you have a dream about that book, and it fills in the blanks and goes with it. And that fuzzy logic where your brain in reality would go, whoa, that doesn't make sense, is constantly fighting that back for the most part of actually, no, just run with this. Just run with it. It's still cool. And it's generating new ideas and making it work. And, this elaborate stuff that happens in your head, or most people's, if there was some way to influence that, control that, that gives you what you want in that one, and you go, but, in the holodeck, you can go on there with multiple people, well, I don't think you'd be far from that. If they figured out the science of it, well, rather than being one person plugged into the device, it's two people plugged into the device. And actually then you're both maybe in the same dream. It begs the question of where the processing is happening, and from the perspective is your brains both linked to one computer where that's doing the processing, or is it you kind of sending feedback back and forth? I do something in my dream that goes into the other person's head, and from their perspective, that's a character in their dream. It's fascinating, and we're getting closer and closer to this with brain scans and stuff like that. And I think I'm stunned. I mean, maybe that we know that Elon Musk is trying to do stuff with brain chips and stuff like that. Maybe that's what he's aiming for. I don't know. But it is fascinating. We've spent decades and decades trying to develop the way to live out fantasy and do that sort of stuff in the real world, when actually our brains do so much of this already that cracking that would be dangerous. But actually, maybe it would provide a better way of doing it. Because unless it's perfect, you're never going to believe it. But your brain automatically does the fuzzy logic thing, where it doesn't matter that it's not perfect. It doesn't matter that when you wake up it didn't quite make sense. At the time, it does. Well, what have you said there, Mash? Have you ever thought about when people read your writing, they're just playing with your imaginary friends? It is a really interesting thought, that, especially when you create a character. You know, role-playing games is one thing, because actually, if you are role-playing a scene with someone, and let's say I'm playing, I'm the GM or the DM of, let's say, D&D, and I've created an NPC, and then I'm role-playing a scene with someone. You know, it's a back and forth, and I'm responding to what they're saying, they're responding to what I'm saying, etc. But if you write something, you put... I was about to phrase something really terribly there. You've written down enough there that provides, you know, like it provides a seed that actually, when they read it, that then grows in their brain, and they flesh it out with details that you didn't maybe intend, or you know, you never filled in those gaps, but they start to take it and run with it. And yeah, absolutely, that's fascinating. You know, again, especially take that example. You read a book before bed, and then you have a dream. So in that case, I've created a character. I've put them on the page. You've read about them before bed, and then you've taken that and run with it in your dream. And your brain is now creating more than I ever could have possibly created for that character, and ran with it. There we go. So, lots of oddities there. I would love to explore some of this creatively. I mean, there are several books there, I think. I once tried to write a play, which is kind of half written somewhere on my hard drive, about the notion of lucid dreaming and the interesting things that could be done with it. I would love to explore this area. It is, when people go to, you know, what's the story you always wanted to write? I mean, there's one, which is the novel that I do have, you know, partially written, which I will finish at some point. And I think, you know, stuff to do with dreaming and the consequences of that and where it could go, in terms of a dystopian thing, you know, again, very Inception ready, very Ready Player One. I would like to explore that, and someday I shall. I promise. All right. Okie doke. I think let's wrap that up there, because sadly I have to go back to work. But there we go. That's how you know I like to pay my mortgage and stuff like that. So, first of all, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. If you have enjoyed this Geeky Lunch chat today, please subscribe. Or rather, follow me on Twitch. I'm not fussy about people, you know, doing paid memberships and stuff like that. But if you want to chuck me your Amazon Prime, please go ahead. But no, just a follow on Twitch would be wonderful, and subscribe to YouTube would be absolutely amazing. Still a relatively small streamer, slowly building up an audience. So that's really appreciated. Secondly, Short Thoughts. As I said, this Friday we have the episode with Devora Wilde, Lae'zel of Cresh Kalir. It's a cracker of an episode. I really think you're going to enjoy it. So please subscribe. Please share stuff. Please, you know, point people in the direction. Come along if you're free. 1 p.m. GMT on Friday. I'll log it in for the premiere of it. So, you know, if you want to be there live and watch it live, that's amazing. But please share. I think, you know, this is an episode where I think I can expand my audience a bit more, because actually loads of people have played Baldur's Gate 3. So please share. Please tag. You know, please send it to people who think might enjoy it. That would be wonderful. That'd be the best Christmas present to me ever. It really would. If you did want to buy me a Christmas present, I have a link to my throne below, which is all the books from episodes of Short Thoughts. So if you do particularly want to buy me a physical Christmas present, you can. But honestly, what I just want is to be expanding my audience further. I really do. So please, that would be wonderful. Otherwise, you can find me on Blue Sky at dcbradshaw.com. You can find me on Threads at dcbradshaw. I have a Ko-Fi. It's there. It's ko-fi.com/dcbradshawrpg. So you can always chuck me a couple of quid if you wanted to. I have monthly subscriptions for £3 a month. It pays for the subscriptions for stuff. Well, it pays a bit towards the subscriptions for stuff like Podbean and my Zoom professional membership, so that I can make Short Thoughts. So if you do want to chuck me a couple of quid every month, that would be amazing. Oh, I'm Force Monkey. Be awesome, stay awesome. Eat cheesecake or a suitable cheesecake substitute, you delectable meatball. You are the delectable meatball. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you've been lurking for a little while. If not, this VOD will be up almost immediately. But thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. That's about it, methinks. Let us see who is about for the raiding. I can see that Tiggy is streaming. She's playing Indiana Jones, so I think we will raid across to there in just a second. For those people in Twitch land, if you are in YouTube land, we're going to stop in just a second because I can't do a raid in YouTube. It doesn't work, though I've no idea what would happen if I tried. It'll probably break to some degree. But no, we're going to raid across Tiggy in just a second. Thank you so much for joining me. Please watch Short Thoughts on Friday, and on Thursday I think we'll do our With Games chat. All right, take care and have a wonderful day. All right, bye.